Is this thing on? Yeah, it is. Okay, so welcome to the log linear analysis of the R video. So, in essence, just to remind you of what log linear analysis is, it is a statistical test where you can examine the associations between multiple categorical variables. So, in our case, we're looking at gender, tolerance, and what else are we looking at? Oh, and respect. So we're looking at three things. So the first thing that you want to do, you want to actually import and load up your data set. So the first thing that you do, you're going to load up the read Excel package into your library. We're going to run that. And that essentially just tells R use that function to pull from our data, to pull from the folders. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to run this command, and this command actually imports and loads up the data set. I normally like to view the data set right after I load everything up, just to make sure that's the data set I pulled from. The next thing you want to do, you want to attach it. This lets R know this is what we're working with. The next thing that I really want to do, I want to tell R to treat the respect variable as a factor and to tell it what levels are essentially label the levels. So we have 1 and 0. So those who say yes, I receive respect is 1, and 0 is no respect. So we're going to run that command. And just to see if R has done it, we can actually view the data set again and can see that R did it. Yay! So the next thing that we want to do, we want to create a contingency table because log linear analysis also works on a contingency table, much like the Pearson's chi-square test. The next thing that we do, we run that command, and we can see here that we have created our contingency table, and it includes our gender, tolerance, and respect variables. So just to show you what it looks like, in the console here we have the respect contingency table, and we see the levels of respect, levels of tolerance, and gender, all broken down. So with log linear analysis, you have to begin with your saturated model first. Why? Because log linear analysis works on the principle of backwards elimination. So with backwards elimination, in essence, you're taking the most complex model and you're taking out those higher order interactions. So you're trying to move from a complex model to a simpler model without losing so much statistical power. So, like I mentioned in the video before last, it's kind of like Jenga. You start with this big tower of blocks, and you want to keep pulling. And if you pull that one block and the tower falls over, then that's how you know that's where you should stop. So to create this model, we have to run this command. I called it put some respect on my name. And in this model, we have the main effects, interaction effects between our three variables. So the next command actually summarizes the above model we've just created. So ignoring all of this stuff up here, we're going to look at the p-value and our likelihood ratio. So we see that our likelihood ratio is 0, and we see that our p-value is 1. And that's exactly what we want because this is the saturated model. It's the perfect fit. It's a model perfect fit. So the next thing that we want to do, we want to actually take away some of those complex complex features of the saturated model. So the way to do that is by removing the three-way interaction first. So using the same format that we used to create the saturated model, we create the three-way model. So we have to make the model first before we can take something out. So we're going to create that model. That model is three-way. And then to take out that three-way interaction, we're going to use the update function. And based upon the previous model that we made, the saturated model, we actually take away that three-way interaction here. And we do that by putting the minus sign in front. So then we're going to run that. And then we're going to use the summary function to show us the likelihood ratio and the p-value. So what we see here, and just really looking at the p-value, we see that it's not significant. So this suggests that it's okay to take out this three-way interaction. So we're in essence, we're fine. That means we can continue. But in order to have confirmation, we're going to run an ANOVA to compare the saturated model to the three-way model. Because ANOVA compares, the models. So in essence, what you see here, and just looking at the value here, we see that it's not significant. So we can continue on with taking out the other interaction effects, or just moving backwards. So the next thing that we want to do, we want to create a model where we remove the two-way interactions. So that's tolerance and respect, gender and respect, and gender intolerance. So the first thing that we want to do, we're going to use the update function to remove tolerance and respect, gender and respect, and gender intolerance. And so just to look at everything and to just do it one by one, we're going to run an ANOVA to compare the three-way model to the tolerance and respect model, gender and respect model, and gender intolerance model. So we run that, and we see here, looking at our p-value, we see that it's actually significant. So what this suggests is that whenever we pull out that two-way interaction between tolerance and respect, we're actually making the model worse. So let's see what happens when we do it with gender and respect. Shit. Okay, so it makes it gets worse. It gets worse, people. It just gets worse. So looking at the p-value here, we also see that it is significant and it makes the model worse. Oh, shit. Oh, well. So the next thing we're going to try the gender intolerance model. Oh my god, it gets worse. Okay, so anyways, just like before, we see that it's actually significant. So what this suggests is that when we remove those, well, just when we remove those three two-way interactions, we actually make the model worse. So we stop here. If we actually did not have a significant finding, we would continue on and going down to the main effects. So just to show everything, we can create a mosaic plot. So we're going to run this command, and that's what it does. It's going to be a little bit janky here, but I'm going to do the best I can to show you. So what we have here, we have tolerance. So let's see. And tolerance is here. So tolerance is tolerance are rows, respect are columns. Kind of can't see it here because this is kind of small for females. But yeah. So where was I going with this? Anyways, so just looking at it, for men who So for men, so just looking at the men, for men who show no tolerance to bullshit, who don't tolerate their partner's bullshit, they actually get more respect as opposed to the men who don't. But then when you're looking at women who tolerate their men's bullshit or partner's bullshit, they actually get more respect than those who don't tolerate it at all. And just side note, I think this is really in part due to the fact that we don't have a lot of women in our data set. So first off, first off, as a tangent, you want to make sure you have enough people in your data set to have a reliable analysis. So just with this data set, we can see that women who tolerate their men's bullshit get more respect. But then men who don't tolerate bullshit, they actually get more respect. So in essence, we do see some form of interaction between gender and tolerance. So that kind of sucks. Yeah, it shows a gender bias. But regardless. So another way to also follow up with it is you can actually look at it as a chi-square test. So with doing that, I'm just going to run all these. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. So you can do that by using the subset function you can use that using the subset function. I'm going to run that. And this. So what we have just done, we created a separate data frame for men and women based on the words male and female respectively. And I'll show you in a minute what that means. So we can actually create a cross table from that. So we've just made one for men, and we just made one for women. And this, in essence, kind of breaks down the mosaic plot. It helps me explain it a lot easier. So just looking at it, you can see men who did not tolerate bullshit from their partner actually got more respect than those who did. And specifically those who didn't tolerate it. Now looking at women, even though, once again, we don't have a lot of people, you need to be careful of that. For women who did tolerate bullshit, they actually got more respect. So this goes to show you that, in essence, the way to interpret it is women are expected to tolerate bullshit from people, or just from their partner specifically, to get respect. But men don't. So one thing about Loglinear Analysis, you can use it as a chi-square test. I'm not going to do it, but I just did it to show you how you can. Well, I just made up the commands to show you how you can. So you would just do them separately. You can create the saturated models, expected values for both the male data frame and the women data frame. And that's pretty much it to the end of this video. So overall, what we have seen is that men who do not tolerate bullshit get more respect when you're looking at the Pearson's chi-squared test. But when you account for the interaction between gender and tolerance, you actually see that men actually get more respect when they don't tolerate bullshit, but women get more respect when they do tolerate it. And that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching.